I want to call the meeting to order for February 10th, 2020. And I'd like to welcome everyone. And if you will, let's rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Normally at this time we have an invocation, but instead, with the passing of Carlos Showers and Mike Fryer, who is our District 2 County Commissioner, I would just like for us to have a moment of silence. Thank y'all. Okay. All right, we've got some announcements to make. Number one, you can see the change we've made up here in the front, and that's an effort to increase access in the public meetings for people with disabilities, and we've installed an ADA compliant seating arrangements for presentations and public comment. This past Saturday, board members were honored to attend the annual MLK prayer breakfast. And I got an email from one of the dear ladies on the beautification committee. You know, I think it was 2 years ago, we were recognized as the prettiest small town in America. Well, Oprah magazine has just recognized us as the 8th out of 60 prettiest small towns in America. And the pictures that is on her site, I don't know if it's hard copy yet or not, were taken from the town square. And with that, I'd like to mention Carlos. Carlos found peace and comfort after an extended illness, January 27, 2020. He was committed to those he loved and exhibited his strong will to survive while enduring his fight. Carlos served as an alderman since 2009, and he was the second African American to ever do so in the town of Black Mountain. Served as a member of the Black Mountain Swannoa Valley Chamber of Commerce Executive Board, and is a member of Mills Chapel Baptist Church. He is known for his dedication to public service and appreciation of those who serve for the betterment of the town. I feel as mayor I need to make a little more of a statement than that. Carlos was the embodiment of fairness and looking out after all town citizens in this town. He was his own vote. He was tremendously passionate about the things that he was working for or trying to get happen. He probably received more criticism from past folks in the board in this town just because of his firm stance on what he thought was fair for this town. So I'll say in ending about Carlos, he was my friend. He was a dear friend to a lot of folks on the entire board. And he's going to be missed, and he's going to be almost impossible to replace. He ran 2 times, was elected twice, and was not going to run again. And he was talked into filling the remaining years on my term as Alderman, which I'll always deeply appreciate his willingness to serve 2 more, even though he was wore out and wanted to step down. He stepped forward, and I appreciate that. The other one is Mike Fryer. He was our District 2 County Commissioner. He died at 72. He was resident of Bunk County for more than 55 years. He was elected in 2012, and he served on Bunk County Board of Commissioners representing District 2, as I said. He was a respected member of the board and passionate about representing the people of his district and the entirety of Bunk County. His imprint on our organization and community at large is undeniable, and he leaves a legacy of having an unwavering dedication of making life better for everyone in Bunk County. Mr. Fryer was one of the folks that was the stand in the gap when it came to spending money. Now, he also fought to send some of our money back to the tune of $650,000. In fact, he and all the commissioners did. There's a total of $650,000 that came right back into this community from the board. Now, Mike was the toughest always to get a yes vote from, but he always saw the need and saw the concern. You had to pass a lot more rigid tests with him than you did anyone else. And for that, I can say that I was proud to be his friend also. And we'll miss both of them tremendously. All right, and the next thing I have is Charles H. Campbell Regional Leadership Award. The Charles H. Campbell Regional Leadership Award was named for 4-time council chairman, that's Land and Sky, and longtime Brevard mayor who himself received a national award for regional leadership in 1977. The award was dedicated in 1983 to annually honor an outstanding contributor to the betterment of Western North Carolina and the Land of Sky region. The council's executive committee awards it to another council member who has made a major long-term contribution to the council and its governance. This year, the award was presented to LORSC, Land of Sky Regional Council, Board Chair and Black Mountain Alderman Larry Harris for his dedication and leadership to Land of Sky Regional Council in Western North Carolina. Thank you. All righty. We also have an award that's been coming since I've been on this board, since 2012. And I'd like Josh, if he will give us a heads up on this award, because they don't hand them out like it's popcorn. You have to earn them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you will, I'll just read the first paragraph of this letter from Michelle Levine with the Government Finance Officers Association. And this is an award for the town's, it's called a CAFR, but it's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. We are pleased to notify you that your 2018 fiscal year-end Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, qualifies for GFOA's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment. Congratulations for having satisfied the high standards of the program. We hope that your example will encourage others in their efforts to achieve and maintain an appropriate standard of excellence in financial reporting.
Dean, well done. Mm-hmm. Thank you for one more year. We've met. One more year we've met the requirements and the standards it takes to get that notification. All right, at this time we've got citizen comments. None? Okay. We'll have then communication from staff, boards, commissions, and agencies. Number A of Autumn Industries, they had a scheduling conflict, and we're going to move that to March. Police Department Annual Report, Chief Sean Freeman.
Kind of feel like I'm sitting in front of Congress. But we'll try to, looks like our itinerary is kind of full tonight, so I'll hit the highlights and try to expedite this as much as possible. But again, in 2019, we've saw a year full of changes and some good accomplishments. And kind of what we want to discuss tonight really quick is just talk about the call volumes we saw, talk about the calls per officer and how we rate with other municipalities similar in size. Again, talk about our impact on drugs. We want to talk shortly about our first full year of our special response team that we've started. And then talk about our efforts in seeking out funding through grants and things like that to help offset the budget and to get some of the much needed equipment that we need at a reduced rate to the budget. And then also the department's community efforts outreach. So in 2019, the police department received about 26,845 calls for service. If you look at the previous 5 years, that's about a 11% growth since 2014. Again, you will see a small dip in 2018. The reason that number is a little bit skewed, again, as I explained last year, is the fact that we started a new, what's called a NIBR system, and it changed some of the grouping and categories and reporting methods of some of the crimes, so therefore we saw a slight drop. However, the numbers, if they were truly put up like they were in the years past, they would be somewhere in the same neighborhood as what we've seen over the past 3 years. When we talk about calls per officer, if you look, I kind of tried to compare it with municipalities that were similar in size and mileage and call volumes and things of that nature. And we're running, again, about 26,845 calls with 20 sworn personnel, and you can see where Waynesville rates, Brevard rates, Marion, Rockingham, Clinton, and Lincolnton is some of the comparisons. So this is how it works out for us. So with a number of officers, we're averaging about 1,343 calls a year. The next closest, again, would be Waynesville with 1,117, Brevard with 1,058. Once you start hitting Marion and Rockingham and some of these others, you're truly hitting more in the range of what most agencies are seeing calls per officer, which is somewhere around that 700 range on average. Even APD, for example, they're only seeing somewhere around 550 calls per officer a year on average. Again, our software this year added a new feature. So throughout the Southeast, we can actually program in our population size and things of that nature and come up with how we're sort of rating amongst other agencies that are similar in size. And there's actually, in your handouts, 3 pages of this. I'm going to hit very briefly on some of the things that we're a little bit higher on and kind of explain those. But overall, our rating is extremely well, as we're equal to many agencies in 26 of these categories. We're lower than all the agencies that we were compared to in 26 different categories. And then we were only slightly higher in a few extra categories. So one of them that we were a little higher in was it showed kidnapping. At 3, the average is about 2. We had no true kidnapping cases. Most of these cases ended up being custody type disputes and things like that. However, when they're reported, we have to report them as they come in. Motor vehicle thefts seem to be another one, and I'm not sure if it's on this page, but anyway, it's showing us at 22 motor vehicle thefts within the city, and on the average there's 20. Where that number is a little bit skewed is 17 of those vehicles were actually recovered vehicles, which go into the system as stolen, but we simply recovered them from other jurisdictions. We had 5 vehicle thefts within the town in 2019. 4 of those were recovered locally, and then one of them was actually recovered on the coast. So we in truth only had 5 motor vehicle thefts. And then we did have 1 statutory rape which most of the other municipalities similar in size to us have none. We had one, but that ended up being an unfounded case. It, just not go into too much detail, just simply as unfounded. So that was where we rated a little bit higher. There's a few other categories, of course. Drug and narcotics, we rated much higher. On average, drug paraphernalia, we rated much higher in those categories as well, but we've been really kind of trying to hammer and while we won't fully eradicate drugs and stuff like that in the town, we're wanting to put enough heat and an emphasis on it to try to get as much of that out of this area as we can. So if you look at our call incident types, in 2018, the police department took 1,056 calls. 2019, we took 1,201, which is about a 13.8% growth. The majority of our calls fell underneath basically what was called all other offenses, which was everything from welfare checks to parole violations to warrant services, things of that nature. Our narcotics was the next highest, which encompassed 18% of our calls. And you'll notice too that DWI's right up there. We doubled our number of DWIs in this past year. However, if you look at the way NIBRS, the National Incident-Based Reporting, does their reporting, we saw a 62.5% decrease in violent crimes, which encompasses murder, manslaughter, rape, simple assaults, aggravated assaults. Most of ours in the past have been either simple or aggravated assaults, but we've had a 62.5% decrease in those calls. If you look at arrest, again in 2019, we saw 356 arrests last year. This is about a 21% decrease, but the reduction is part and due to officers having to issue citations over arrest due to staffing issues, to include officers being out sick, vacation, training, etc. However, the ones that were more important, we went ahead and made those arrests rather than the citations. Again, keep in mind that there were 210 narcotics arrests last year. However, almost 100 of those had to be cited and released. Our state citation calls, 2018 we saw 748 citations. Last year, in 2019, we saw about 1,514 citations. In that, keep in mind, we also wrote 762 warning citations and gave over 2,500 verbal citations. And in the next slide, I'll show you why that's important. And so when we start looking at vehicle accidents, 2018 we saw 341 motor vehicle accidents. In 2019 we saw 262. So essentially we had a 30% decrease in motor vehicle accidents, and a lot of that has to do with a more proactive approach to traffic. And then also we've had programs out there trying to educate the public on safer driving tactics and things of that nature. Again, one of the things I'm proud of is our huge impact on narcotics. Again, this is a very successful year, and a lot of that has to do with the partnership we have between Homeland Security and all the local agencies, to include not just in Buncombe County, but outside this area. A lot of our cases have started going into multi-counties, and in some cases multi-states, and even nationally in some of the cases. So we've continued that impact on the narcotics that we're seeing in this area. Mostly what we're seeing is marijuana and its derivatives, methamphetamines, cocaine, and heroin. Out of the narcotics that we took off the street last year, they were at an estimated $658,215 street value of what we got. So in addition to the narcotics seized, we actually seized 12 illegal weapons from the streets. We seized approximately $142,730 in cash, and we also seized 3 vehicles which have been taken from us by the state to basically auction off to help pay some of those drug taxes on the narcotics. So in 2019, again, we saw over 6,000 grams seized, thousands of dosages of prescription medications, just far too many to sit there and scroll through and try to count every single dosage unit. And then in 2019 as well, Black Mountain saw the 111 drug arrests I was telling you about. 3 of those cases were adjudicated last year in federal court. So we had our first 3 successful federal court cases. And in those 3 cases, it totaled around 55 years of active sentence for those 3 individuals that were sentenced. So we're having a very good success rate in ridding these people off of our streets for some time. And not only did the officers last year make a difference with the impact on narcotics in the town, we were also, again, through the Narcan that we carry, we were able to help with the saving of 4 individuals from fatal drug overdoses as well. Our SRT team, as I kind of explained last year that we were looking to put together, essentially we were seeing so many narcotic search warrants that we had to come up and get the training and things that we needed to, number one, help us out legally in service of these warrants, but also in a way to try to help make sure that we were keeping the town safe, keeping our personnel safe, and things of that nature. So we did have our first full year this year. We saw basically 17 call-outs in 2019, with 6 of those being high-risk search warrants. 4 were narcotic search warrants, 3 high-risk violent offender apprehensions, and 4 mutual aids. And with that, we also trained over 1,044 hours, and 160 of those additional training hours were with outside agencies in our area for a multi-response if we had something huge to occur here within our county. The team's goal is the preservation of life when we're out on calls. And the one thing I will say in 2019 is the 17 call-outs we had no offenders hurt and no officers hurt and no civilians hurt. So we 100% achieved the goals that we wanted with the team. And then I want to kind of move into, what we've done over the past 3 years to try to kind of offset budgets and, get some of the stuff we need. So since arriving at the police department, it's been my goal and the goal of the staff to find alternative sources of funding to help with needed equipment, which reduces the burden to our budget. In almost 3 years, we've been really, really successful with that. We've been very, very fortunate with some grants and stuff that we've been able to receive through the generous donations of town citizens and things of that nature. And I want to cover a few of those things now. So when I first got here, we had received a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice for body cameras. They paid off tremendously. They help us out with court cases and everything. So that grant was a 50% match. So ultimately, we saved the town a little over $11,000 with that particular grant. Due to safety systems or the safety concerns with our radio system at the time, we ended up working and talking with wireless communications. There was quite a bit of negotiations that went on. We started out at somewhere around $604,000 as the first number that was thrown out of us to fix our communication center, get our radios upgraded. We talked them down to like $518,000, and through a little bit of research, we found out what they had charged Buncombe County and kind of threw that back and said, hey, we want the same deal. And so they had to go back to Motorola and talk to Motorola, and ultimately that's how we came down to the negotiated price, which again saved the town essentially right at $204,000. I wrote a grant back in early 18. We knew that we needed our MDTs updated. We knew we needed in-car printers. They were all dated and just coming to the end of life. We did receive that grant. It didn't come till early in 19 is when they released the funds, but the grant was for $24,999. Because it was a year off, we had to seek new estimates on everything. We were able to reduce those costs, and ultimately we were able to buy a 75-inch smart TV where we could do additional trainings, we could do briefings, in emergency events. We could use it and project, things on the TV to be able to do planning and things of that nature as well. Through the partnership with Homeland Security, when you start talking about narcotics investigations and things like that, especially in our town, it's important because overtime runs into budget costs and things like that. So again, in an effort trying to reduce that, they said, hey, you know what? If we can take this federal, we'll reimburse the funds to you. And so to date, we're looking at roughly about $12,800 that's being reimbursed, plus almost $1,000 in equipment that they purchased for us. One of the things that we're in negotiations with them on now, and it'll be, I think, on the later slide, is they're looking at purchasing what's called license plate readers for us. They run about $10,000 a piece. They're looking at buying 2 for us to help out with the narcotics investigations and stuff like that also. Through a partnership with Project Lazarus, when fentanyl and stuff was so bad on the streets, we were able to get basically the Narcan injectors, and these are really nice for the fight. You pull the cap off of them, they walk you through everything that you have to do. I had no idea what they cost. The first time we've got nine boxes, so a box contains 2 actual injectors and a trainer injector. Talking to John Wilson, he said he said them things are like $4,200 a box. And so a little bit later on, when those expired, Project Lazarus give us 20 more boxes. And not only do they give us 20 more boxes, they give us a drug drop box as well. And so the estimated cost in that was almost $122,000 of goods that came in that we didn't have to pay for. Likewise, I think, and I've got it somewhere in here, we've actually taken in through the drug drop box, almost been able to pull 220 pounds of prescription medications in and have them destroyed appropriately rather than end up on the streets. So again, to assist with the fleet of the patrol vehicles, probably one of our highest budgeted areas that we have to deal with. And it's, extreme cost because you're not just buying the vehicle, you're also buying the equipment to go in and stuff like that in a lot of cases. We were able to use drug asset forfeiture funds to purchase a 2018 Dodge Charger and equip it at a cost of about $30,000 from the asset forfeiture funds. We were able to seize the 2015 Ford King Ranch, turn it into a K9 vehicle. The truck itself was valued at about $42,000. We put in about $15,000 to upquip it. Half of it came from the town, half of it came from ABC funds, I believe it was. And so we were able to upquip that truck, and now we have about almost a $50,000 vehicle. And then also in 19, we're very fortunate again because of participating with the Governor's Highway Safety, building up points and things of that nature. We were chosen and selected for a vehicle grant. So that grant covered half the cost of the vehicle and the car, and we took all the funds from that out of our ABC funds to upfit that car and to purchase the car, which is approximately a $42,900 car. Again, I didn't put solid figures because we do this almost every year, but through the U.S. Department of Justice and North Carolina League's ballistic vest grant initiatives, essentially we'll get 50% of the cost of a vest, and then the remainder that's left, we file in the league, we'll get another 50-60% of that. So ultimately a $600 vest will run us somewhere around $150, saving us about $450 per vest as we purchase it. And then also, we have the individuals within the town. I can't talk about the generosity of the people in this town, not only for supporting the department and in equipment, but the way they support the department and the town through donations to be able to do the Christmas things we do and the Thanksgiving things we do and the outreaches that we do. I've never been in a community that's so giving and tries to take care of the community. It's I just can't describe how much that means to have the support of a town. So with that being said, we've got $8,000 to purchase some rifles we needed because some of our guys were carrying their own rifles. Not only that, but we had a citizen step up who paid for our K9's food for the year, and they also bought a ballistic vest for the dog that came out of their pocket to make sure that the dog was taken care of as well. So that just shows the generosity and the kindness that our citizens have in this town. And again, it's overwhelming to me. It's amazing. So in 3 years' time, if you tally all that up, it's somewhere a little over $500,000. We're going to continue. We push and look for grants and any kind of initiatives because, again, to be good stewards of the money that's provided to the department, part of that is negotiation of prices. It's looking for ways to help offset that and save the town money. And, I just want to say that we're going to continue to do what we can do to try to help offset those costs and make it cheaper for our budget as well. Again, we did apply for another Governor's Crime Commission grant. We just recently got word on it. It's a no-match grant, so no cost to the town. It will be sometime next year that the funds will be released, but it's for $21,000. That will be used for our squad room upgrades, to update computers, to do reports on internally, printers, and then also finish out the weapons upgrades for the patrol rifles for the remainder of the department. So we're still doing our community outreach. It's our firm belief that we're not only here to enforce the laws, but we're also want to be true servants of the community. And part of this is taking care of those who are struggling in our community. And one of the ways we do that is just like we did in the past. We purchase shirts and we sell them at Sourwood, and all the funds go straight back into the town. In 2019, through the generous donations of our citizens and through the sale of T-shirts at Sourwood, we were able to put almost $9,000 back into the community during the holidays. We were also worked with Shenandoah Valley Christian Ministries to do the town's first ever Community Day, which I think was a great success for those that went out and saw the number of people that came out to that, even though it was raining. I mean, it was a huge success. Our Christmas, again, we were able to help 15 children this year. I can't remember how many families that encompassed, but again, 15 kids. And not only does it buy toys, but it gets all the important stuff such as jackets and pants and shoes and things of that nature, some necessities. But we're also stepping out and doing other things as well. As one of the photographs there show, our SRT team back in the spring came together and participated in the town trash, or the cleanup, spring cleanup. And we worked in behind the old Bilo, and it was hideous. It was terrible. But again, trying to get back to the community and trying to clean up and be more active and, a viable part with and work hand in hand with our citizens to keep this place as beautiful as it is one of our ultimate goals. And again, we still do the coffee with the cops. We participated in some drug drops that were throughout the county. We've been into the child daycares and did presentations and hung out with the children, and we're still doing coffees with the cops. They're very, very successful, and the numbers continue to grow each time we have coffee with a cop. So the last thing I want to kind of throw out there is the fact, and this is more for the citizens than the board, but we do have the new town webpage. If you look on the bottom left, there's some tabs. When you scroll to the bottom of the webpage, one of them's comments. That's where you can either give accolades to an officer, or if you've got a complaint, you can kind of start the process there. But it also has a tip line, and I can tell you the tip line's been very, very successful at this point. I can't tell you from larcenies been solved, from tips coming in, to drug offenders being arrested due to tips coming in. They can put their name on there and get a response, or you don't have to put your name on there and remain anonymous. But through the validation of those tips, we've been able to take numerous drug dealers down, and then we've also been able to solve about 3 or 4 larceny cases from people who said, "Hey, I seen this individual over there," and then us recover the items that were stolen. And then lastly is still our Facebook page. This seems to be one of the ones that's more popular as far as people going to the messenger and sending us messages, detailed messages on what they're seeing. And the good thing is it's immediate. As soon as I get them, sometimes it's been 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm on the phone with the officer saying, "Hey, we need to go check this area out." Please use these sites. They're making a difference, so use those. And then lastly, I just want to say that again, this was a great year, full of success for us. We had, through our partnerships, we were able to save the town money. We were able to work these cases in great detail. But we believe that we're true servants here, and our one sole purpose as a police department is to make a positive difference, and that's what we want to do. And that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Just a comment, brother. Same as always. You know my feeling. You guys have been doing an excellent job, and we're proud of you, just beyond words. Thank you for what y'all do, every one of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
If I can-
Yeah, I would just, I think this report kind of speaks for itself on Sean and his department. Obviously, they're staying busy and keeping things in order. I would like to thank the board, and I will speak for all the staff and say we appreciate your support, especially when we're going after these grants, because that does save us a lot of money in the end. And that's, I would say that the majority of the departments are actively doing that, so we do appreciate that.
Yes, sir. All right, Finance Quarterly Report, Mr. Dean.
So, I'm going to talk about some different things than I have in the past. In the past, I've given out you a quarterly report highlighting revenues and expenses for all the funds, and you still have that in your possession. And I'm going to continue to do that on a quarterly basis. I may not be standing here in front of you, but you will get that in your boxes, and you can ask any questions on that anytime you want, including tonight. But for my presentations, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of focus on a different area every time I come up in front of you. So today, we're going to talk about property taxes. And what I have here is that I have the 5 municipalities within Buncombe County. Woodfin, we were unable to get their information. And I'm showing you the actual tax rate and how that's changed from fiscal year 11 to fiscal year 20. So there were 2 property reevaluations during that time. Our actual tax rate is down almost 9% in that time period. You can see Buncombe County and Asheville are pretty flat. They sort of went up a little bit. Weaverville went up about 5.5%. Biltmore Forest went up 15% in actual rate. And we're going to sort of leave them aside for a minute right now, because in 5 minutes or so you'll kind of understand why their tax rate did what it did. But with the other 4 municipalities, our tax rate actually went down. Now, Don, among other people, is aware that with both of those property revaluations, we actually were slightly below revenue neutral. But for the most part, we were revenue neutral. So the taxpayers of Black Mountain as a whole did not see a tax increase in the last 9 years. So the second slide that sort of has to do with property taxes is going to show you how property values increased during that time period. Now these numbers are in millions of dollars. So we had in fiscal year 11, we had an $819 million property tax or property valuation. This is not vehicles and it's not personal property. This is just homes and businesses within Black Mountain. In fiscal year 11, we're up to $1 billion and 36 million, which shows to be almost a 26.5% increase. You can see that actually is a little bit higher than Buncombe County, although it lags both Asheville and Weaverville. You can see Biltmore Forest didn't hardly increase at all, which is why on the previous slide, and Josh and I, pardon me?
That's why they put the rates up.
That's why their rates had to go up, and that probably has to do with development restrictions in that area, is that they're just not, or it could be that a lot of things were very highly valued back in 2011, and they just didn't increase all that much in the last 8 or 9 years. But you can see that our growth rate, while it stayed even with, we're a little ahead of Buncombe County, it lagged both Asheville and Weaverville. The last slide, which is kind of the sum of these first 2 slides, shows the actual dollars in taxes received. So back in fiscal year 11, which happened to be my first year, we received almost $3.5 million in property taxes. In this last fiscal year 19, we're in the middle of fiscal year 20, we're at $4,077,000, which is a 17% increase. You can see how that compares to the next 3, Buncombe County, Asheville, and Weaverville, have all shown substantial percentage increases. And that in some ways is a factor of us staying revenue neutral, while these other municipalities and Buncombe County were a little bit, they were higher than revenue neutral, and that affected our overall tax percentage, and it shows that our percentage increase, 17%, is less than the other three. We're not going to really count Biltmore Forest because of some of their restrictions in development. So Don particularly, he and I have had discussions, and he sometimes will bring it up at the board, that if you're a taxpayer in Buncombe County, you're better off being in Black Mountain than anywhere else. This board has done more to keep your taxes low than, in my opinion, than any of the other boards in Buncombe County. So the next slide is going to talk, well, this actually sort of shows the sum of those first three slides, I'm sorry. And the blue is how the actual tax rate has changed. The red is the property values, and the purple, I guess that color is the dollars received in percentages about how the increases. The next slide we want to talk about, and property taxes in Black Mountain make up about 45% of our general fund budget. That's about normal for governments, but so it's pretty close to half of our general fund budget. The next one I want to talk about is our sales tax revenue. I have 9 years of this, and again, when I first started, we were actually under $1 million or so, and now we're up to about 1.6. That equates to about a 6.5% increase over that time. Sales tax revenue is when you go to the store, Town Hardware, and you buy a $100 item, they're going to charge you $7 tax. That tax is distributed among the governments in Buncombe County. We actually receive only like a little over 1% of that $7. But we get that whether it's in Black Mountain or Asheville or Weaverville, no matter where it's being, where that purchase is made. That 6.5% increase, and then this revenue is almost 20% of our general fund revenue. But that has just been a wonderful increase, and almost guaranteed that cannot continue on that trend, even though it's been great. I hope it does, but most people would be happy with like a 3% increase. So being in Buncombe County, in large part because of Asheville, really, has been great for the sales tax of all municipalities in Buncombe County. And lastly, I'm just going to talk about building permit revenue. You can see back when I started, we were at about $100,000. This was as we were kind of getting from very tough national economic times. And this has been booming as well lately. We were over 300,000 in fiscal year 11. It's dipped a little bit the last couple years, although this year we'll be over 250. I think we're at, 165,000 as of today. So I would think we'd end up somewhere in the 260 range or something like that. This revenue, while it's not a huge percent of our general fund revenue, within a year or so, these dollars equate to property increases, which brings in property taxes. So if this is trending upward, as it has been lately, that's a good sign for the town in times to come. And this should really come as no surprise to any of us, because we all see there's a lot of building going on in Black Mountain. Those are the three items I was really going to talk about tonight. If you have any questions on these items or anything in the 6-month review that I handed out, I could put some notes in there as well. I'm happy to talk about them. I'd also like to say that if the board has any, next time I come up, if you guys want to hear about, talk to me about salaries, or talk to me about, does the pool make money or lose money? If you relay that to myself or Josh, and I get a little bit of time in advance, I'm happy to focus on whatever topics you guys feel is important. I probably won't be talking about these topics again anytime soon, but I just thought it would, these are sort of some big dollar items, and I thought it would be important to talk to you and have the public kind of hear about them. But whatever topics, any topic is really on the table, as long as I have a little bit of time to put it together, I can research.
From what I'm seeing, if I'm reading this right, the last 2 years, we have declined in building.
Well, fiscal year
revenues.
18, we did, fiscal year, yeah, you're right, the last 2 years, we'll be up to over 250 this year. So we've gone down, but that's really because fiscal year 16 and 17 were so high, really. Yeah, but yes, to answer your question. Any other questions? Thank you.
No, thank you, Dan. Okay, Josh, consent agenda.
All right, consent agenda, item A will be your adoption of minutes. This would be the minutes of January 1st, 2020, special called meeting of January 9th, 2020, agenda session, January 13th, 2020, regular session, and January 13th, 2020, closed session. Item B is an audit account contract amendment for Malden Jenkins. If you'll recall, we did select a new firm to do our audit this year. We had been with we had been with Gould Killian for a number of years. With this audit with Malden Jenkins, they are I think they're out of Georgia. They ended up finding some information in our prior period adjustment numbers, which was a depreciation of a fire truck. I think in the past, speaking with Dean, we've missed a prior period adjustment maybe one time in the past 8 or 9 years. When we were with Gould Killian, they did not charge us for that adjustment. However, Malden Jenkins is charging us $3,400, so we would need to amend their audit contract. We did sign a contract with them for 3 years. This would not affect the next 2-year contract amounts, only this year's contract amount. Item C is a budget amendment for the golf course snack shop water damage repairs. This is something that's been happening for not sure how long, but it's taken quite some time to do the damage that it has done. Water has been entering the basement of this building. The walls have been deteriorating. There's some mold in there. So we've got some quotes in. We did get another 2 quotes actually. We did contact about 6 contractors, and 4 of those were not interested or didn't have time to do it. The other 2 had interest, and we would recommend that we go with CRC Construction, $21,875 for these repairs. This would be a budget amendment, of course. Item D is a budget amendment for additional funding for our comprehensive plan. We budgeted $45,000 for our comprehensive plan update and this fiscal year budget. As we've began to go through this process, our last meeting was much more attended than we ever thought it would have been. We had 120 folks that did show up that night, even with the nasty weather and the limited parking. So I think it's really important that we continue to get this public input. This $10,000 amendment to the contract will allow us to do a handful more meetings to get that input. I think that's going to be important for this plan. So that will raise that total to $55,000. That'll be your consent agenda.
All right, I need a motion to approve the consent items A through D as presented.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. All right, now we'll have any citizen comments for unfinished business or new business. Hearing or seeing none. Josh, 2020 sanitation contract.
Let me turn the light there. All right, so before I get into this probably confusing spreadsheet for some of you, but we'll go through it and present you some numbers. But just to give you kind of a recap, we're in our last year of our sanitation contract with Waste Pro. That would end September 30th of 2020. What we've done, we did send out an RFP to solicit bids from other qualified vendors. We did receive those bids, I guess it was last Monday?
Yeah.
So last Monday we received those bids. We received only one bid, and that was from Waste Pro. So there was no other bids to open at that meeting. Of course, we have done some research. We did meet with the majority of municipalities in Buncombe County to talk about their operations, because I know I've had conversations with you about the potential of bringing this in-house. We did meet with Weaverville, we met with Asheville, we met with the city of Marion. We also did not meet, I also did have a discussion with the town of Woodfin about their operations. All of these, and Biltmore Forest, excuse me, the majority of these municipalities they all do it in-house. All right, so everybody in Buncombe County, every municipality does their own garbage service in-house. We are the only municipality that does contract it out. So let me jump in to this spreadsheet a little bit here and try and go through some numbers and not confuse anyone. This number here, the $796,000, is what we are anticipating we are going to pay at the end of this contract year with Waste Pro for this year's services. This is a 4-year kind of layout of what we've been paying Waste Pro. So you'll see in 17 it was $730,000. This does include tipping fees. So their fee was $594, and then the town pays the tipping fees, which were $928. $730,011 in 17. And you'll see it goes up every year, which is normal. 757, 715 for 18, 760, 547 for 19, and then we're estimating, like I said, this year 796, 200.
Tipping fees didn't
Tipping fees haven't fluctuated much. I do know that this upcoming year, Buncombe County is raising their rates on yard waste from $20 a ton to $30 a ton, but their tipping fee will remain the same at $43.75 at the landfill and $47.75 at the transfer station. All right, so let me go to another spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet, as I mentioned in the previous spreadsheet, this is the estimated amount we are going to pay this last contract year, $796,200, fiscal year. We got the bids in from Waste Pro. That is going to be in the next contract, the beginning of the next contract, if we choose to go with Waste Pro again, that is going to go to $1,073,650, which is a 25.84% increase in cost. It jumps from $660,400 to $931,250 is their fee, and of course we are paying the tipping fees like we always have, which is $138,600.
And is that the same services? It's not even the same services.
That is the exact same
That's the
service
same.
we have right now. The
So
exact same service.
That yellow fee, that's what we pay per.
So let me talk about the yellow fee.
Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Maggie. So the $12.90 is currently what we pay per household to Waste Pro
per week.
per week.
Yeah.
If you, not to confuse you, but if you added in the tipping fees, that number would be $16.26. On the new contract, we will be going to $18.51 per household per week. And if you add in the tipping fees, it's $21.93
I'm sorry, per month is what we're talking about.
per month, not
I
per week.
apologize.
Thanks, Dean, for
Did-
confusing me.
Well, no, I started the confusion, but he and I, there's a lot of, yeah.
Okay, so that, like I said, that's the same service we have currently. If we decide we want to use Waste Pro and go with recycling carts and garbage carts, which is what I think Buncombe County has went through and is going through currently to receive carts, those fees are going to be a little more expensive. and I don't have a per month fee for each household, but I can tell you that the total fee goes from $1,073,650 to $1,230,322, and that would be with both recycling and garbage carts.
So is that just the cost of the equipment, the carts and everything else? I mean, what's the increase?
There is
We're still looking at fiscal year 21.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there is a representative from Waste Pro here tonight. She can probably better answer that increase in fees than I can.
Well, I think that's, my belief is that that's, in effect, we're sort of renting the carts. If we buy the carts outright, it would cost us $400,000 to give everybody a recycling and a garbage cart. In this case, like I live in Swananoa, I didn't buy these carts that just showed up at my house, but my bill went up a little bit, and so in effect, I'm kind of renting these carts is how I think of it. But Josh is right, the Waste Pro representative could speak to that.
So let me jump to this line, and I can go back, and I will jump back to the larger spreadsheet in just 1 minute. But fiscal year 21, if we were to bring all these services in-house, I can tell you that the only thing I'm missing, at least hopefully, and we've done some pretty extensive research, the only thing we are missing currently is the installation and cost of buying an oil and water separator to wash these trucks. So we are trying to get those answers for the past couple of weeks now. We've been unsuccessful on getting a cost of installation and purchase, but I can tell you that Asheville has one. We've been trying to get numbers from them. They spend about $2,500 or so a year on maintenance cost, and that's to pump things out, take it away. But this is essentially when you're washing your trucks out, you don't want all that to go into the rivers or the creeks.
Where do you where would you keep the trucks?
The trucks will be kept at the public services facility currently.
Is there inside?
We would probably need to build a somewhat of a metal storage canopy for those. I don't know that there's room inside. If you can go down, we'd have to either put them inside and move stuff out and put those underneath something, or vice versa, because it's relatively full with the vehicles we have now.
So we probably need to get a handle on what that cost is. It's not up here yet.
It's not up there. I know I've had Jamie run some numbers. That's relatively inexpensive for one of those, probably $15,000 to $20,000. So not too bad for a canopy. Don't want to go through those costs? Okay, I can.
Well, just sort of tell them what.
So personnel costs, $330,000. That is for what we have currently budgeted in is 6 employees. All right, and we've done research from other towns, Marion, Weaverville, Asheville. Obviously, they're much larger than us, but we think we probably need 6 employees to do this efficiently, just to be honest. $35,000 contract labor. This would be for if someone's out, if potentially don't have anybody to rotate. The other municipalities are using a contract labor pool of people to come in and do these services. The tipping fee, of course, I've mentioned, $138,600. Fuel, we think we're pretty good on our estimate for fuel, which is $25,000. I know Dean has talked to our insurance carrier, $20,000 for workers' comp and general liability insurance. The other $25,000 line item is going to be for other items. That would be training, conferences, things of that nature that we're going to be unexpected on what we might spend. Recycling disposal. Based on previous years, we've disposed of about 630 tons roughly. Currently it's $62 a ton. That comes out to around $40,000 in disposal fees for recycling. Now that number is a moving target. I don't know what that's going to be next year. I don't know what that's going to be next week. It's just hard to estimate that number. Our debt payments, $123,917. Let me show you what I mean by debt payments. All right, I don't want to get too far into these numbers because it may start confusing you. But so for debt payments, we would be having debt on trucks. Okay, that would be the debt payments. Those debt payments would be for The bank has told us 7 years on trucks is what they finance trucks at. If you'll notice in this spreadsheet, I did a 10-year spreadsheet for the costs and what we anticipate those increases to be. Debt payment stays the same, of course. In year 7, it comes off, but the question is, and of course this is it's a working spreadsheet. Are we going to need to buy more trucks at that point? Some of the folks we've talked to are saying it's going to depend on how hard we are on the trucks, but they're typically getting around between 7 and 10 years out of a truck.
Well, you wouldn't want not to budget it
Yeah.
and plan for it.
And right now, we're basing that on 2.5% of what we can get on a loan that I called on a week or so ago, but, it's really impossible to know what that rate might be in the future. But I think if you scroll down again, I think your total trucks total up to what?
$795.
Close to $800,000. You got some big, 4 of them are heavy duty trucks?
Well, you have 3 25-yard rear loaders,
Yeah.
a 24-yard boom truck that would be for brush pickup, and that's what most folks are using. And
What's Waste Pro using now? Aren't they just coming out here with 2 trucks?
they use, and she can probably answer that better than me or Tasha, but I know they use 25-yarders or 28-yarders. They're rear loaders. And you've got them coming out here for garbage and recycling both.
Right.
See, they also have a pool of backups too. So these trucks are gonna go down. And when they go down, you have to have a backup. They have a fleet of backups, so that's not a problem for them really. For somebody like us,
And they do our garbage pickup in
2 days.
2 days.
That's right.
So we've got an extra 3 days, which we could chisel that up.
That's, yeah, I mean, I think that at this point, we haven't had that discussion, but yeah, I think that we have options for sure on how many days we pick up. And then
we could buy 2 trucks outright, pay cash for them, and not have that debt occurring.
Yeah, you absolutely could. And then I've got 2 pickup trucks in here that will have hoppers in the back for areas that we can't get to easily.
Right.
And you can just throw the trash in the back of those pickup trucks for those areas.
But even if, I would assert, I think this is a fair statement, even if you paid cash for them, and a projection like this, you need to put the replacement cost in there. You're gonna have to pull some money over and appropriate it for the next truck. So one way or the other, you gotta put that money in there.
it'd probably be a smaller amount, but yeah, there'll be something.
Yeah, you wouldn't have the interest, but.
So as I mentioned on the previous spreadsheet, minus the oil and water separator, of course, and minus the shed that we'll get numbers for, I think we're going to be pretty close to 767, 517 in that first year, is what we've got projected. Now, we're doing the best we can on these projections. We've just met with lots of jurisdictions and seeing how they're doing it, employees they've got, equipment they've got. We think we're really close. Of course, we're not going to know for sure after the first year. I mean, we're going to have a better idea of what that's going to be exactly after the first year if we end up doing it this way.
Are those numbers us doing it?
That's correct. So
So
760.
it's going to go up in 5 years from 767 to 913?
That's correct. And that's based on some of our stuff that may be a little high. I've got M&R at a 20% increase each year, maintenance and repair of trucks. The first year at $30,000 is probably inflated. It hopefully won't cost us $30,000 the first year with new trucks.
No.
But I wanted to be a little conservative in those numbers.
Sure.
And then just based on the increase, what did we put in for recycling increase? We put in a 5% increase each year for recycling, which could be, that's just kind of a guess
Right.
on recycling at this
Tipping
point.
fee for recycling.
Yeah, disposal fee for recycling. Excuse me. Tipping fee, we did put an increase in of 5%. It didn't. The solid waste did not go up, but the yard waste went up $10.
Right.
And then we've got a 5% increase in employee salaries, which is
And
a
that's
little
the
bit.
full salary. That's
Yeah.
the benefits as well. It's not just the hourly wage.
And you're thinking it's going to take you 6 folks to do this? And Waste
Dean and I were
Pros-
talking today, and we had a discussion that may be a little low.
A lot
And
of
Waste
places,
Pros doing it with how many? 4, isn't it?
Well, two people per truck.
Yeah, and they've got 2 trucks out here running,
Yep.
so that's 4.
3 trucks on Friday. Friday's a bigger route.
Okay, that's 6. Which would match what Josh is saying, but that's 6 on one day.
And
Oh,
you-
what are we gonna do with those folks if we decide to go this way, the other 4 days?
No, that won't be a problem. We've got plenty of things they can do. Jamie is could use some more help, so I'm sure we have work for them to do. That would not be a concern of mine.
And then the trucks are rear loaders?
The trucks are rear loaders, that's what we priced. I know I've talked to
So that
everybody.
eliminates us having to do the $400,000 of trash cans for the side loaders.
I mean, it does. The rear loaders that come here now do dump my rollout can. They do have that ability, and I would suggest we make them do that, have that ability. I don't want our guys digging into the rollout cans to get out bags. So I mean, I think.
So how much more is that gonna cost?
I think that's very minimal difference on the rear loader to add that feature to it. It's a simple lever that
It
picks it up.
still
and
just
dumps.
go in the rear?
Yeah.
But not everybody has a cart anyway. A lot of
Right.
there's going to be a lot of bags
Yeah.
that are being thrown.
Yeah. And that's kind of a work in progress there. I mean, that's a direction we're gonna have to move in for those who are able to do that. We're just always gonna have some that it's not gonna work.
I think when we went into this, I'm sure y'all knew, and I knew that there wasn't going to be a cookie cutter approach to just giving
That's right.
everybody cans.
No.
And there's areas, and you and I rode around and looked at. There's areas that it's just not feasible to do that.
That's right.
But there are quite a few areas that it does work out.
So is there still some, I'm sorry, or is that kind of the presentation for tonight, or you have?
For the most part, as far as the numbers go, I just wanted to let you know what we'd gotten in from Waste Pro and kind of what we had calculated for in-house.
So the decision would a target be for making the decision by the regular called meeting in March? A month from now?
Yes, I think that the sooner the better. March I think will be fine. I will tell you, the lead time on getting the trucks in is going to take a little bit. I have spoken with Waste Pro, and they've agreed that if we aren't completely ready by the end of our contract, they are willing to do a month-to-month contract to get us by until we can get the trucks in. I'm still waiting on a couple of pricing quotes from another vendor who has assured me that we could get the trucks sooner, but I won't know that for sure until I
Right.
see that.
Right.
So
So
what
my,
kind of-
sorry, go ahead, Don.
Okay, what kind of savings are we gonna have each year for over a 10-year period? Or is it gonna cost us more? I think it's gonna be less, obviously.
Oh, I can tell you the first year savings is going to be, just looking at the numbers, over $300,000 the first year. The second year, probably because Waste Pros goes up every year. We don't have what is that number? You don't have it calculated out as far as the total
Well,
cost.
it's on.
If you look at these numbers, Mr. Mayor, by the time we get to year 10, we're going to be close to what Waste Pro will be charging by year 2 or 3.
And that's with having 6 employees,
Take it out.
three regular garbage trucks,
That's right.
2 pickups with the beds on the back,
And a knuckle boom.
and a knuckle boom. What will that be on? Is that gonna be on a separate truck or?
Yeah, it'll be on its own truck.
Okay.
And it'll have a big container on it where we can just much easier to grab the brush off the ground, the knuckle boom, and put it in the back of the truck.
Well, I've been talking to the rest of the mayors in the county, and they all say, if you're smart, you'll get your knuckle boom for the limbs and things like that.
I think most everybody we met with had them.
I think one of the central themes with Josh has been in some meetings that I have not been in, but right now we do not have much when it comes to regulation about garbage, brush. It's kind of the Wild West around here. And if we had regulations on brush, or maybe if we had a certain size garbage can and you could only fill it up that much, that would reduce not only tipping fees, but it would reduce, number of brush pickups. And there's some people have a deal like, we'll give you 3 brush pickups a year, then we're charging you $25 or some number. As opposed to right now, you could fill up Josh's office with brush every week. And
We're probably gonna have to look at
I-
that at
yeah.
some juncture.
I think it would, either road we take, I think we need to
Yeah, we'll have to.
address.
I think we probably have to take a step at a time, and this is a
Yes.
big decision at this particular juncture for the town, but we have to move, that was gonna happen
yeah, either
also. That was also gonna happen at some point in time, so just have to keep moving on it. I think it might be helpful to plan on, a special call to meeting, just to touch base on the numbers, like Don was saying, some summaries of what it looks like, over the 10-year projection, and you still got a little information to gather. It doesn't need to be a long meeting, but maybe at 5 o'clock one day, or even 5:30, I would think it probably wouldn't be much more than a half-hour meeting.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a significant decision, I hate not to gather and talk about it one more time before we meet in March, when we really need to say yay or nay on it. I would say, I don't want to oversimplify it, but we should be able to do it cheaper ourselves, because we're not having to pay the overhead for someone else to do it, which is what, this company is in the business of doing, which is fine, that's their business. They're not going to do it for free. And it's been a great, benefit to the town. This is pretty tough business, or so it seems to me. I mean, Jamie, you're gonna, it's gonna be something that's gonna change your life a good bit. And so, it's a big step to take, but, somebody that I know really well, I was chatting with today, would happen to be my wife. And she said, her comment was like, why would you all want to do that? And that is your first reaction, but even though I don't think any of us are, it's sort of a, what's the word? A little intimidating. Let's put it that way, to take that chore on. But if you look at, I don't see it. The evidence sort of mounts that's in the long haul would seem to be, unless we hear something different in some information that we don't have, it's hard to delay making this decision, which seems somewhat inevitable. I'd like to, if I can figure out a way to do it, but I don't know that we're going to be able to do that.
So if we bought the trucks outright, we'd still put so much money back in a capital reserve program each year, like we've done fire trucks in the past. And so that at the end of the truck's life, there should be enough money there to replace
Certainly do.
all of them.
Can we afford to do that fund balance wise, as far as the health of our fund balance?
Put money in the capital reserve or
No,
buy
buy
some.
or
Pay,
Well,
we'll pay for the trucks and.
We're in a unique position right now because of the sale of the building. The
Right.
US 70, we gained about $400,000
Right.
from that gain. Well, a gain on sale, we took in more than that, but we
Right.
gained that much. So, if this sort of problem had to come, in some ways,
Couldn't come at a better time.
it kind of came at yeah. If this was 2 years ago, we would be more in kind of that option might not be available.
Right.
Well, it is very kind of Waste Pro to be willing to step in the gap if we're there.
Yes.
And also, I wonder if we might be able to reach an arrangement with them where if we need somebody and need the services in the gap, that obviously it's a sort of need to talk and negotiate a little bit, but If they're, because I don't think we could, you know, it's just you have to have some backup in this.
Yeah, well,
They've
that-
got backup because they've got a big crew. and
A
they
couple
can
of the
move people
places,
around.
like I talked to Asheville and said, hey guys, how about if we only buy 2 trucks, and if one of ours ever goes down, we'll borrow one of yours and we'll pay you for it, nicely. And their reaction was, we don't have enough of them ourselves to keep going,
Right.
so we wouldn't be able to give
Right.
you one.
So I mean, that's something to think about before we finalize to know what that would look like.
Yeah.
What's our contingency plan?
And I'll say that, Waste Pro's been very open to discussions.
Right,
And
that's
so,
very kind of them.
for sure, keep those channels open.
Yep. Okay, so we look at, what, a couple weeks?
Yeah. Will you throw the slides up real fast for the, so, we did a survey, of course, with the sanitation survey, had it on our website for, I guess it was a month, right, Angela, roughly? We got 515 responses, so we ended up getting back. And we just asked a handful of different questions. Let's see, so 310 of those responses were out of the 515 that they only got rid of between 0 and 2 bags of garbage a week. And I don't need to read all these to you, but you can see 165 of those were 3 and 4 bags, 24 5 to 6, and the small amount was 6 or more. Next one. 85% of those people that responded said that they would be able to use roll-off carts. 15% said they could not. Of those 15%, this is how those 15% broke down. Majority of them was due to terrain, whether that be hilly or long driveways or what have you. 12% disability, and 38% health or condition, or just elderly or unable to make use of a can. But I did want to share that with you and not just forget about those responses. But that's all I have on the sanitation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, NC Highway number 9 sidewalk construction contract approval. We left that with you to do some,
Where we were, back up a notch or two, we need easement from Sykes Reagan, and he wants brick sidewalks. And over the course of the last month, we've been looking at, is there any way we can satisfy both sides of that equation? Our original thought was, we got bids, and it was bid out for brick and concrete. The difference between concrete sidewalk and the brick, about $65,000. Now, the hope was that Sykes Reagan would be thrilled to pay the difference, and we just go for it, except for the problem of maintenance, which had been issued. However, wasn't the proposal, and we didn't really, at the agenda meeting, didn't have much of a proposal from him, some ideas. But one was an awkward proposal that, again, I can't tell you that we can do it this way because it looks like we're dodging our approach to it. But it's a service contract that at that size, we could have done that by formal bid or informal bid. Once you take the bid, whichever process, then you're committed to either rejecting all bids or taking the lowest responsible bidder. And one of Mr. Reagan's proposals didn't work. He said, what if I hire a contractor, he builds it, and you pay toward that what you would have paid just for concrete? And we can't do that. The alternate proposal I got through his attorney was, what if you buy the bridge from me? Now, this is just cash flow economics is what it is then Reagan would build it in segments, and then the town would pay him for the sidewalk and easement. And arguably, and my understanding is they would attempt, they don't know what that number will be either, they would attempt to make that come in at what our low bid price is. And we would be providing the grease that made the wheels run, but buying the bridge, that would give him whatever amount was agreed on. He'd use that, build a second sidewalk, sell that to us, he'd get that money, do it again and again and again. The idea was not that he'd make money on it, but it was a means by which the town could, or he could build it, the town could fund it, and hopefully not pay more than our low bid. We don't know that. He hasn't bid it out himself. One of the questions raised, or Jamie suggested, was what if we do it in concrete, but we stamp that concrete to look like brick? I think unless we use colored concrete, so it looks like brick, there's not much point to that. Talk to Appalachian graders, the people who've given us our low bid. Talked to a fellow named Kidd, and I can't remember his last name, Rusher, I think. And he went and checked on what it would cost if, increase in cost, they take their concrete sidewalk, watercolored concrete, and stamped it so it looked like brick. He said that process, although it looked like his first thought when I talked to him this morning, that sounds like that'd be a better deal. At the end of the day, he called back and said, no, it wouldn't. The cost of doing that with the increased cost of concrete, it's just about as cheap. Just go ahead and put down pavers, put down the brick. So it was not the cost savings that it appeared to be. And that's about where we are, is the proposal that I haven't responded to because there's no real numbers on it, on Reagan building and selling it to us. That feels like, or at least it seems to me that the public look at us, that's the way you just got around the bid process. And then there's some control we have over the contractor we bid it to that we don't have over who we are to do it, and the time frame. And that's just where it is at this point.
Well, he currently has a walkway. It's not a sidewalk, but he's got a little sandy path area that's goes all the way across through his property.
Yeah.
We can go to the other end of his property, go ahead and finish out the sidewalk until we come to some sort of an agreement.
Certainly. And this process apparently, it looks like it's going to take longer than our bidders want to wait.
Yeah.
And the thing that we have to be conscious of is that we can't do for one, that we're not willing to do for everybody else. Any other developer that comes in here says, oh, wait a minute, you did it for Cheshire. You need to do it for me too. I want the same thing they got. So we're have to be very upfront that we just don't do special favors for anybody that we're not willing to do for everybody else. I think the entire board feels that way and understands that. Okay, so let this
Bring it back up when we got a little more information on the final, on this cost.
When I was talking to contractors today, I didn't ask them about their time constraints, but by March, the weather will have broken. And they'll be ready to go to work. And so I don't know what else I can gather more that might be a proposal except this board. But if you're going to have a special call meeting in a couple of weeks to talk about garbage, we might add to that agenda discussion.
have enough information back from them.
They give you a bit more time to work with.
Okay. All right, going on to new business, resolution to provide additional matching funds for Riverwalk Greenway Phase 2.
I can take it. Okay. So the next round of funding has opened up, and this is the funding that we have been successful in obtaining through the MPO. It's federal highway funding. It's the STBG funding, which changes acronyms yearly, it seems like. This would be for 2020. The amount we are asking for, and I think from the beginning, we've known that it would be around a $6 million Greenway project. And this is the Riverwalk Greenway project, Phase 2, that runs from Ole Guacamole's all the way down to the In the Oaks Trail. We are seeking $1.2 million, which will bring us to the $6 million estimate that we've been given by our consultant / engineer on the construction cost or the total cost of the Greenway, excuse me. So our amount, as far as match, is a 20% match, would be $240,000. And of course, we're responsible for that 20% of that total project, which would be 1.2 million, which is an extremely good deal. If you look at the whole amount, which is 6 million, so we're not going to be we're essentially going to be getting $4.8 million worth of Greenway. We're not having to pay the 4.8 million. We're paying 1.2. So it's
Right,
6
and
million.
while you're at it, you might remind the public that, what do we get from the county?
We got 400,000 from the county.
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
And we are going to be reaching out to some other funding agencies to try to get some more money to help offset our costs as we move through, which, this is what we do. So we're trying to get more money from other areas and other agencies to help offset the town's cost. But this is the resolution to go after that next round of funding.
Okay. Just want to make sure that everybody understands that you Greenway fans, the hard part is getting the money and then getting your engineering and things done and getting it set aside. You can't do any of it without the money in hand. And that's what we've been working on. So I need a motion to approve resolution R-20-02.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 3-0 passes. Okay, library board. Filling the building maintenance, one unexpired term. Recommendation by library board membership is Ron Collins.
And if I could step in, as the board knows, I've been on the library board for a lifetime. It's one of those jobs, it is the board you get appointed to and die there. But we're just a glorified maintenance committee. And in the past, we lose people. We tend to try to select people with skills that save we have to work. And that saves the money that's used to maintain the building. Ron Collins fit that bill on a number of terms, so we were asking this board appoint him. If it's presumed that the library board falls under that penumbra of the other, that you can't serve on more than one appointed board, since this isn't a policy-making board that would conflict with anything else, we would ask the board to suspend that rule and appoint Ron Collins to that vacancy.
Then I would make a motion that we suspend the rule, since this is not a policy-making board. We suspend our normal rule for boards and commissions about serving on more than one at one time, and accordingly, I'd nominate Ron Collins for the library board.
All right, we have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 3-0. All right, public hearings is next.
We've got C.
I'm sorry. Board of Alderman appointment procedural discussion.
This is something we brought up at the agenda meeting, which I don't think's ever been done before, but it's something I thought I found out that Maggie Valley and Mills River do this procedure. And I thought it would be a good idea to offer this to the public. It's a notice of interest for Board of Alderman appointment, which would be for Carlos's position. We talked about it somewhat at our agenda meeting. Are there any other thoughts on it? We reduced our application to just one page, front page. Well, it's not really an application. It's notice of interest for Board of Alderman appointment. So that's my...
Oh, sorry, Maggie. I would just
go ahead.
to build on what you're saying, and Ron, please feel free to jump in here and provide your expertise as well. But certainly all of us have been contacted by members of the public about the appointment for the remainder of Carlos's term. And our charter does not allow for us to both leave it vacant or to call for a special election. So the board must appoint someone to fill that term. In the spirit of transparency, Maggie has come up with this idea of this notice of interest where individuals that have interest in serving the remainder of that term would fill out this form that would be available here at Town Hall for public inspection for individuals to see. And they wouldn't be required to do anything other than that. They would certainly have the opportunity at our next board meeting to come and speak in citizen comments like any other citizen. But although it's not been done, I know that there is concern about this creating a precedent for future boards. It's my interpretation that as the boards change, they can choose to take whatever procedure they want, and as long as it was within the charter's parameters.
And the charter and the law requires little other than this board appoint a replacement. This is a nonpartisan board, and that's about the only limitation in state law, is if we had a partisan board that the person replacing the missing member be of the same political party. We don't have that. And this board is putting this together means just how do you get your name in the pot so they know you're interested. It's not like a job application. The board is not adopting this as procedure. They're not locked into it. But it is a means of this board finding out if there's somebody out there interested in this job that they're not aware of.
Thanks.
Is it, would you intend for it to be mandatory? In other words, it's, again, you can't really bind the board on doing it. So if someone failed to get the application in on time or whatever, the board can kind of they can still make a decision. They're not bound by any due dates or anything of that nature.
And you're still free to appoint somebody who doesn't provide it.
That's right, that's right. I think it had, I'll be very honest, I was not a real fan of it because I felt it could be somewhat disingenuous in that, if you're asking somebody to submit an application, but they really had very little experience and so forth, you're still, this is a political board. I mean, we're nonpartisan, but we're still going to choose people that, that we can work with and so forth. That's just what's going to happen. And so I felt like it may kind of put, maybe a little awkward at times. However, there's two sides to the coin. And that is that if someone is interested in it and qualified and does want it, then it's just as well for the public to know.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a downside to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's our job as a board to appoint somebody when a vacancy is made. And I've got on either side of me folks that this board has appointed, Ryan and Larry, and then gone on because of us making a good choice. They've gone on and become the top vote getters, and one of the top vote getters in the elections after that. And so that's our job as a board, is to replace somebody that dies in Carlos's spot or has to resign for for whatever reason. And I think this board's done a pretty good job in filling the seats. If you look at their performance and how they conducted themselves when they were appointed to the board.
And Maggie, I'm sorry, I don't want
No,
to speak
no,
for
go
you on
right
this,
ahead.
but
Go ahead.
and I'm by no means in supporting this measure, making any indication or any indictment of any of the board members that have been selected. It's a privilege to serve with all of you all. I just think that we're in a unique time where people are asking for more transparency. They're asking for more avenues to serve and to make themselves known and be available. And I just think this is another tool for that. It certainly is not going to restrict the board from selecting someone that doesn't get this in on time. If we even have an end date to it, that's something that we should probably talk about as well. But I do just think it's just another tool and something to try and just see about moving forward as just a new tool for us and for future boards if they want to use it.
Okay.
Well, and I also thought too, with the Citizens Academy that Angela has been, how many of you had? 2, 3? Two. You know, there's a resource. People who obviously attend that are interested. And I thought, well, that's another little avenue. So that is another reason I thought this might be a good thing.
Okay? So what do we do with this?
So how do we do this legitimately? It's not an ordinance,
No,
so.
it's not an ordinance, it's just that I guess the board is supposed to make those available to citizens who want to make their
Candidacy known.
Okay,
Make the motion, Maggie?
yes.
Did we want
Go
an end
ahead.
date or anything?
I think a couple of weeks is plenty of time.
Yeah, I do
By the end
too.
of- Yeah, by the
I
end of the
think-
month is what I thought.
Yeah, that'd be good.
By the 28th or so, or 24th.
24th is 2 weeks. I think that's enough time.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it, because that way the next time it comes up for another board, this is be what they would do.
Sure.
They'd set the date and time and just say,
Mm-hmm.
drop an application off if you're interested.
And then make it, how would the citizen get the word out? Website?
I'll put an announcement on the website.
And we
I'll
can,
send it out by email and I'll have it here in print.
okay, all right.
You got a member of the media, Roger.
Yes, there you go.
And then Angela, thank you for doing this form for us, but
Yeah.
there were just a couple things I just wanted to get the board's opinion on as well. I think everything looks good on here. Just a couple of questions I had on the question of the residency that you see. I think that's perfectly good to have on there. The length of the residency, do we want to leave that on there? Or?
I think it's a good point. I think you can just take that off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the other question I had would be the question after that, are you registered to vote in Buncombe County? I don't know that our charter
I think you
says
take
anything
that off.
specifically about that as well.
You take that off.
Okay.
yeah.
And then the last one, which I'm perfectly fine leaving on there, I just wanted to get this out there, the affirmation of eligibility. With, you know, the certain ban the box movement that's come onto applications recently, not asking these questions about prior misconduct and criminal history. Do we want to keep this on there, or do we want to remove it because of that?
Wrong deal.
It's an interesting one, because once you're on, you've got to take an ethics oath.
Correct.
And so because of that, I don't see a big issue of asking the question up front. You have an ethical problem that you're gonna have to disclose eventually anyway. And you've got the public's interest in who is stepping forward. So I don't think it hurts. You can probably live without it, but I don't think it does any harm to have it. If you're not asked that question when you fill out the form and you're appointed, you're going to be asked that question the day after.
True.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I make a motion that we approve this notice of interest for Board of Alderman appointment and make it available to the public.
And a date to be,
Oh, yes, the date,
then?
the 24th, what's the day, the 10th?
The 24th.
Yeah, the 24th. 2 weeks, I think that's plenty of time.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, public hearing. Public hearing of intent to close right of way on Ruby Avenue. That's Jessica.
It's a live mic. So a petition was received by the department to close a portion of right-of-way between Ruby Avenue and Old State 10 Road. The right-of-way that is asked to be closed touches 212 Ruby Avenue and 213 Old State Road, Old 10 Road, sorry. The area to be closed is approximately 75 feet in length and about 14 feet wide. The area to be closed is not identified in any adopted plans, nor is it part of a proposed greenway or roadway system. And the right-of-way is not part of a stormwater system, nor is it in a drainage area. And I should note that it's already closed on the Curly Heights end, and that it is it is intruded upon by part of a house and a tree, and that both of the property owners abutting it turned in the signed application. The planning board recommended the closure with a vote of 5-0 at the November meeting. We did have one comment, about the other side to the right of that orange line that is utilized for a driveway, and that is why the planning board chose not to close the balance of it, was to continue that joint access to those neighbors right there.
Do we have any citizen comments? Anybody would like to speak concerning this? Do we open it?
No.
Okay. I want a motion to open the public hearing for resolution R 20-01.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, citizen comments? Any questions on the board? Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve resolution R-20-01, closing the unopened platted right-of-way parallel to Ruby Avenue as presented.
So moved.
All in favor, okay? All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. All right, number B is public hearing rezoning portions Flat Creek Road and Montreat Road from suburban residential R2-2 to town residential TR4.
Yes, you may remember, late in the summer we had a successful rezoning application on Flat Creek Road, which prompted a conversation about a significant number of parcels in this area that were legally non-conforming. And we had some requests from other people who lived in the area who were also interested in having the same zoning district of TR4. So we wanted to seek a more holistic solution to that corridor. There are 44 parcels in the study area. If rezoned, then there will be only 8 parcels that remain legally non-conforming because they continue to be too small even at the TR4 zoning district. I will point out that SR2 and TR4 are very similar districts. They're primarily residential, with the primary difference being the lot size dropping down to 1/4 acre. It's a unique situation in that this is rezoning to actually reflect what's already on the ground. The majority of these properties look and function as TR4 parcels. The planning board had a community meeting to field questions about the rezoning, and we had about 12 or 13 property owners represented at that meeting. We also had a lot of phone calls when the signs went up, and it was widely supported. We had a couple of questions. People thought they were being downzoned and not upzoned, but that was the extent of that. There are sufficient utilities in the area to facilitate the future subdivision of what parcels are potentially could be subdivided, of which there are a handful. And there are obviously enough utilities in the area for the parcels to be served as is. The planning board voted at their regular meeting 5-0 to recommend this application to you.
Okay, do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do we have any questions or anybody like to comment? Citizens comment? Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt the statement of consistency as approved or as amended.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt zoning ordinance ZO-20-01.
So moved.
3-0. All right, another public hearing, rezoning of 1068 Old US 70, zoning ordinance number Z-O-20-02.
Okay,
So the owner of 1060 Old US 70 is requesting to be rezoned from OI 6 to HB 8. The property is just over 6/10 of an acre and is situated on the corner of Old US 70 and Tabernacle Road. You see it on the map, it is indicated in red. That is, if it were to be rezoned, it would be congruent with those other red properties that it is both adjacent to and abutting.
And that's the one that's outlined in black.
Yes, sir. At the HB8 district, it would be possible for a minor subdivision to occur to create one additional lot. And I do believe that the owner was unable to attend tonight, but provided a statement to you via email. Okay. Well, we'll have that. I'm sorry. There are significant utilities in the area, as you might expect through this. There is a 6 and 8-inch sewer line, and there's City of Asheville water lines, and sufficient transportation infrastructure to handle any traffic that may be associated with that corner. It does have it has a significantly wider range of permitted uses, such as an industrial park, which is allowed as a special use, but it is unlikely to be achieved due to the size constraints of the parcel. I do know a neighbor had a little bit of concern that, and she specifically used the industrial development example. And so that was noted at the planning board meeting, and we had a 4-to-1 vote to still recommend the application to you.
That it?
Those are the nuts and bolts, unless you have any questions.
Motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any citizen comments, questions? Come up here, please, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Pettit, and speaking of, recently I just moved here from Biltmore Forest, so it's kind of ironic that you mentioned that. Our rates did go up a lot. Anyway, I have a house that's listed up there as well, and on this map, you don't really notice it, but there's actually only 2 other parcels that are listed in red. The great big one parallels my house. My house is the little tiny one there on the left, and it's my understanding that the demarcation line for everything south of that is what is currently trying to be rezoned. So right now, there's only those 2 that are there. So my statement is, if you guys consider going forward with this, what is that going to do for the rest of our property values? And then where is the line going to be if this one continues, and then the next guy wants to increase his, and then the next guy and the next guy? Eventually, we're not going to have any property. Anyway, so that's my comment. I just want to hope that you guys don't vote to make that happen.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members? Hearing none, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt the statement of consistency as presented or amended.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to adopt zoning ordinance R-O-20-02 to rezone 1068 Old US 70 Highway from OI 6 Office and Institutional to HB 8 Highway Business.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. All right, D, public hearing to rezone 1114 Montreat Road from SR2 Suburban Residential to UR8 Urban Residential.
This may be a property that I've had more calls about in my tenure at Bike Mountain to date. 1114 Monterey Road, formerly known as the Nana's property. It's legally non-conforming use as a nursing facility expired in the middle of December. And as you noted, the rezoning request is to change from SR2 to UR8. And you can see the abundance of red in the area that the property is both adjacent and abutting the requested zoning district. The parcel is just short of 2 acres. And the most significant difference between the requested district and the existing is the lot size and a potential density of 8 units per acre. The property does appear in the Greenway Master Plan for a multi-use path along the back of the property. It also appears, at least in part, in the 100 and the 500-year floodplain maps. There is sufficient infrastructure in the area to serve the parcel, both for water, sewer, and transportation. The planning board heard this application and voted 5-0 to recommend the application to you. The districts are significantly similar, and we would expect this to be an appropriate use at this location.
Okay. Do I have a motion to open public hearing to rezone 1114 Montreat Road?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any questions or public comment? Any questions from the board? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt the statement of consistency as presented?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. I need to a motion to adopt the zoning ordinances Z-O-20-3 to rezone 1114 Montreat Road from SR2 suburban residential to UR8 urban residential.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Passes 2-1. Okay. Do we have anything from Town Attorney?
I have nothing left to add.
All right, Josh?
Yeah, just a couple quick things here. Just a reminder that our second comprehensive plan update meeting, public input meeting, is Monday, a week from today, on the 17th at Meadowbrook Free Will Baptist Church off of Blue Ridge, located off Blue Ridge Road, and that is from 6 to 8 p.m. We look forward to seeing another good turnout for that meeting, hopefully. Also, we are currently soliciting public comment for our Blue Ridge Road small area plan, which we have done a number of times. I want to make sure we've gotten squeeze the last bit out of that we can squeeze out, and hopefully get some more input. I think that is posted on our website for some more public input for around 30 days or so at least. I will mention I did send out an email to the board, I guess it was last week, about the potential for any one of you to be on a Friends of the Fauna Flora State Trail board. There is a meeting this Thursday on the 13th at 5:30 in Marion at their YMCA. Just to give you a little heads up, this board has been actively working to pursue funding and state recognition. They are, I think, one of 5, 6, 7, or 8 state trails. This will run from Morganton to Asheville. And operates similar to the Mountains to Sea Trail, but just shorter. The Friends Board has just been created as of last week. They are, I think they're filing for their nonprofit status. They are or have voted in some bylaws, and they hope to get some elected officials on board to make it a stronger board. So I know Larry did email back and said he didn't have a lot of time, but he would be happy to serve if we needed him to. But that is, like I said, next Thursday at 5:30, and any or all of you are more than welcome to come, but I will be attending, and the hope is to get representation from each county along the trail and each municipality along the trail. And last but not least, we have been contacted and kind of have went into agreement with, it's a company called CGI Communications that is going to produce a series of videos for the town, post these on our website. They're going to look at showcasing our attractions, our quality of life, economic development opportunities, and the businesses supporting that program. So I know they are or will be in the process of contacting businesses to get their support. But this is something that some other towns have done, and it's a pretty neat thing. It's free to the town, so it will provide us some videos and showcase what we've got to offer here in Black Mountain. That is all I have.
All right, communication from the mayor and Board of Alderman. Board?
The only thing I would share is that, as you saw on the agenda, we had the folks from the two top executives from Avadum Health coming to just give us an update, try to give us a little timetable on when they would commence construction of their building, which they've given us some direction on that it'll be sometime in 2020, and it's about a 12-month construction period. But there was one of the folks was sick, and so we just rescheduled, and they will be here next month. And I think we'll also have somebody from NCDOT that might be able to provide a little clarity on right-of-way acquisition timing. The state, as many of you are aware, the state overall, the money for roads is just slowed down, just the amount of construction and the cost of it. And so it's a bit of a moving target, but it's good that maybe next month they might have a little more clarity on when that would be. It could be toward the end of the year, but they will define when that will start, when that will happen, when they're able to.
Anyone else?
I would just say that in the spirit of recognizing the two public servants that we've lost in the last few weeks, early voting for the primaries begins on the 13th. There's an early voting site here in town at the library. Please feel free to avail yourself and participate in the process. It's better when everyone participates.
Amen to that. All right, I need a motion to enter into closed session to discuss personnel matters as permitted in NCSGS 143.3.11A6.
So moved.
All in favor?